Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
What's up, everybody? Kevin Jackson. It's a Kevin Jackson Show. I have to tell you, I'm excited for a few reasons today. If you want to get the show on podcast, KJRadio.com, you're going to want to get this one. You're going to want to share it with other people. And here's why I'm excited. Because I was talking to God, or, giving my thoughts, and he hit me with a revelation. He says, Kevin, you know what? I've been teasing you with this idea, and hopefully you catch it. But I want you to theme your shows. Yeah, he was a lot more eloquent, by the way. But I want you to theme your shows. The other day we did a show on truisms. And I could do 50 shows on truisms. And what it allowed me to do was take the news and sort of filter it in through these different angles. And the first thought when God said to me, you need to do these thematic shows, I was like, come on, God, how many themes can there possibly be? I have to do 5 shows a week, Lord. That's 20 shows a month. Not that I needed to help him with the math. And he was like, no, there'll be plenty of themes. You'll understand these themes as you develop the shows. And I was like, well, so here again, I'm just cruising along. You got to talk back, right? A little smack talk with God. And I'm going, so God, where am I going to come up with these themes? He goes, I'm telling you, you're going to have the themes. They'll be there for you. Now, I had this conversation years ago with him when I told him I'd run out of ideas. And he chuckled at me and says, you'll have plenty of ideas. Don't worry about it. You got plenty of ideas. And I was like, no, I don't know. He goes, you got plenty of ideas. Trust me on this. So long story short, I woke up the next day. I have never had writer's block. I've never been stumped during a question. Nothing. I am replete with ideas. I tell my team all the time, we don't need ideas. We need people to execute. I got plenty. So at some point I asked God for focus. He started giving me a little bit of focus, but we hadn't gotten there. And then he whispers to me, hey, you need to theme your shows. So I'm going to try to do that. And today's theme is, what does it mean to be American? And I'm going to take all the different stories that we have and explain it in that context. Now, if I say to you, what does it mean to be American? The majority of us have very similar core beliefs. We believe it's freedom. We believe that, this country offers you whatever you want. It's such a cool concept of America because it says to you, pick where you want to be and go do it. As long as it doesn't infringe on the rights of others, you are free to be you. That is quintessential America. That is conservatism, honestly. Now, there are many of us who, well, Kevin, I don't like people with tattoos. Okay, great. Or nose piercings, or, I don't like the gay lifestyle, whatever. That all may be true. But if you're true American, you're like, you know what? Live and let live. If you're true conservative, you're like, I don't care. As long as your infringement isn't on somebody else, I'm cool with it. Now, I'm not telling you that there aren't bigots, which on the conservative side, by the way, as big of idiots as on the left, who say things like, well, them gay people ought to all be shot or whatever. You know what? If you're that stupid, fine. I can't deal with you. But the average conservative can certainly be persuaded to understand that if two men want to cohabitate together, nobody care. As long as they don't want me to have to say, I agree, I don't care what they do. And in fact, I can be friends with them. Well, Kevin, you don't want to be around people that, you may end up... No, I'm completely satisfied with who I am. I'm never going to be gay. And I would not condone the lifestyle. And if you say, well, Kevin, by being around it, you condone it. Well, that's like saying being around, going to the supermarket and not eating, asparagus. It means that I'm condoning asparagus when I walk by it, because it's still there. Well, what should I do? Go to the supermarket donor. Listen, you've got asparagus in here, and I'm totally anti-asparagus. I can tolerate many things that I don't have to participate in. Capiche? Capiche. So what does it mean to be American? I think most people in the world would say it's the greatest title a human being can have. I'm telling you. And I'm talking, there are Chinese that wish they were American. They got a lot of people over there. The reason why I can make that statement that a lot of people want to be American is because, number one, I've traveled a lot. And number two, I listen. I also observe. Do you think anywhere else in the world has the immigration issues of America? Name it. Well, Kevin, Britain, they're wanting, name it. They don't have a fraction. The only reason, I tell people this all the time, the only reason why people immigrate to Britain or France or Germany or whatever is because they can't get to America. That's it. They don't want Germany. Ask the average person in the world, do you want to go to Germany or do you want to go to America? You know the answer. The majority of the world wants to be American. It is the greatest title you can have, bar none. And yet, we are always dealing with this as an issue as to, why do black people not want to be American? You say you're American. America ain't my country. Really? In 2014, the New York Times reported by the name of Damien Cave traveled the length of the highway I-35, runs south to north, through the middle of the United States, for his The Way North project. And along the way, he asked 35 people, what does it mean to be American? And I want to delve into that a little bit today. We have a ton to talk about, folks. I'm just telling you. Gillibrand slamming Hillary Clinton. Al Franken under fire. Let me talk about the Al Franken under fire for just a bit. The idea that the left fashioned a noose to put around the neck of Judge Roy Moore, and guess what? They placed it comfortably around the neck of Al Franken. That is leftism. When I talk about the death spiral of leftism, they wanted to take a good man, Judge Roy Moore. They blasphemed his name, all for the sake of political expediency. And then it backfires on one of their own senators. I love this story. We're going to cover it in some depth. Lots to talk about. Louis C.K. a little bit in the news. Mike Pence is suddenly back in the news, and I'll explain why. And, of course, Jesse Jackson. He's got problems. It's funny. When I was thinking about the Jackson story, some people are going to be happy about it, and some people are going to be, rightfully sad. So we've got that to talk about. Big changes in Saudi Arabia if we get to it. So we got a full plate for you. Glad you're here.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful four-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanyourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.
Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson. It's Kevin Jackson Show. What does it mean to be American? My gut, reaction when I hear that, when I'm asked that question, would be, it means you have a frontier spirit. It means you have a spirit of overcoming whatever may come. That's what I think. I think of truly, and it is ingrained. I think the first thing I think of is God. The next thing I think of is the military. The next thing I think of is capitalism. Those are my, if I would give you three things that I think of, I think of God, I think of military, I think of capitalism. And then you can throw into the fabric of all of that the fact that you are free to, have a family, raise a family in the freest society on the planet. That's what I think of it when I think of America. And I've talked about this. I've talked about it in my speeches where I talk about the feeling after 9/12. That was America. After 9/11 on 9/12, that represented America for me. We were one nation. And the reason why I bring this up is because I want to cap this discussion off by telling you why the left is so anti-American. And in between, I want to explain to you the backdrop of why, if you have the spirit of Americana, if you feel this spirit of the American spirit, there you go. Look there, it just came to me. But if you feel the American spirit, all these problems melt away that we're talking about. We're not talking about BLM when you have the American spirit. We're not talking about Antifa. The average American man is not looking to sexually harass women. He's not disrespectful of women. He understands the need of the woman. Even the guy who was the frontier man, the guy who wasn't evolved and has become the new metrosexual man, he understood the role of his wife. She was equally important in his life. Go look at, I'm not trying to over glamorize the old West and stuff like that, but go look at those TV shows that we're talking about, fathers out there plowing the field and moms in there making butter and washing clothes and taking care of the youngins. He didn't come home and beat her. He came home and said, I had a rough night's work, and she ran him a bath. They cooked and ate dinner, said a prayer, sat around the fire. Kids read, they talked. Who knows? Life was simple, but what's wrong with that picture? It may be boring to some, but what's wrong with that? They got up and they did it again. Life was about survival, but it was survival on your own, and people had to be good with their hands. Everybody had to have a skill. Is that true today? In America today, we've got, 47% or whatever the number of people that are on some form of government assistance. 47%. Is that the America you foresaw when you were coming up? I certainly didn't. So this guy goes around and he's making a trip down I-35 north to south, and he asks different people, what does becoming America mean? It means following the rules. It means respect of your neighbor. In your neighborhood, said Francine Sharp, a retired teacher in Kansas, born in Kansas. A guy born in Mexico said this, if you work hard, you get good things in life. Jose, he's a college student, a roofer, an immigrant without legal status in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Born in Mexico. If you work hard, you get good things in life. He even knows it as an immigrant. We could go into the illegal aspect of it. I don't want to go into that because we have too many other things to talk about in the news today. But I'm just saying that's what this kid said. A 14-year-old named Natalie Villafranco, born in Dallas, Texas. Being an American is making change, making good changes. Being American is being welcoming, being caring about other people, being proud of the country, and it's forgiveness. It's not holding grudges or anything. Where's that going to get you? That's what she said. We have a climate right now of anti-Americanism that is I've never seen in my life. And needless to say, it's not coming from our ilk. It's coming from the left. And I want to explain why they are so anti-American in a bit. Being American means protection by the law. This is what Sean Larkin, 40-year-old sergeant with the Tulsa Police Department gang unit, said. He was born in Virginia. He says, anyone can say whatever they want, and even if I don't agree with them, they're still protected by the law. It's my job to enforce. That's their freedom. That's their right. Think about where you can't do that. All the countries. If you were to take a list of the things you can do in America and put on a chart, you know how they do those charts where they'll say, like, here's our silver, our bronze plan, our silver plan, our gold plan, our platinum plan. And platinum's got all the little bullets all the way down. There's like 14 different categories or 20 different categories, and platinum's got them all the way down, bullets. And gold maybe has 12 of the bullets, and silver only has 6 of the bullets, and the regular, say bronze only has 2 of the bullets. Well, that's what you'd see with America. You look at all these freedoms. We'd have list of freedoms, list of things you can do in America, what you could become, or the things that aren't bad. Like we don't have a caste system. Now, some say we do. I mean, in a way, we sort of do. You could say, well, Kevin, there's elites. There are people in this country that have more than others. Sure, there are billionaires, and people get born into billionaire families. That does not give them necessarily a leg up over you, because you may not want that. You may just like to go out in the middle of the evening, when you get home and go fishing, or, get in your canoe and canoe, or maybe you just like to write. What's a billionaire got over you if you want to be a writer and you're a gifted writer and he can't write a word? What's he got over you in terms of your lifestyle, what you want to do with your life? He's got nothing over you. There are billionaires that would love to play basketball like LeBron James. They can't, and they never will. All they can do is appreciate. Oh, but Kevin, he's got all the money. Great, but that may not be what he's looking for. He's got money, but what if he's dumb? Nobody stops to think about what is that kid's dreams. Oh, well, he could make any dream come true. No, he can't. He can't be a great singer. He can't be a great artist. Just because he's got money does not mean he's going to live the dream the way he wants to live it. So people would tell you, well, these kids grow up in privilege. How do you know that? So is privilege only given by money? What's it given by? Oh, he's got a really good address. Good for him. Maybe that kid wants to be a hip-hop artist. He lives in the suburbs. Where's he going to learn hip-hop, how to dance, how to, have the swag? From hanging out with his suburb kids? He would rather grow up in the inner city, living amongst the people that he wants to, that life he wants to emulate. I'm just saying, do we really know what people want to be? If money's the answer, then we're all losers. Anyway, we got more to talk about when we come back on this. Keep it in.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Spare us the bank shot, spare us the sarcasm and the satire. And
I'm going to spare it, but I'm going to just say to you that I come from the poor people. And I've been here working my whole stinking career for people who don't have a chance. And I really resent anybody saying that I'm just doing this for the rich. Give me a break. I think you guys overplay that all the time, and it gets old. And frankly, you ought to quit it.
Mr. Chairman, the public
believes it. I'm not through. Okay. I get kind of sick and tired of it. Now, true, it's a nice political play.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
it's not true.
With all due respect, I get sick and tired of the richest people
Regular
in
order,
this country
Mr. Chairman.
getting richer and
Regular
richer.
order.
We do a tax
Regular order.
middle class
Wait a minute.
Regular order.
and over again.
Wait just
How
a
many
second.
times do we do this before we learn this?
Listen, I've honored you by allowing you to spout off here. And what you said was not right. That's all I'm saying. I come from the lower middle class originally. We didn't have anything. So don't spew that stuff on me. I get a little tired of that crap. And let me just say something. If we work together, we could pull this country out of every mess it's in. And we could do a lot of the things that you're talking about, too.
Welcome back, everybody. That was Orrin Hatch. And I will say, I'm not a fan of Orrin Hatch, but I like what he said there. Here's what I liked about that. And I'm sure many of you probably felt the same way. Why do you fight? Why are we fighting over rich and poor? We live in a country where we have an amazing middle class, and the left constantly fight us over rich and poor. Welcome back to the Kevin Jackson Show. We're talking about what does it mean to be American. And I want you to understand, Orrin Hatch nails it. We're not in terms of the defining of that, but you're not going to make me be upset about what my status is in America. I don't infringe on anybody else's status. We're talking about the tax code. And the left immediately say it's going to it's giving favor to the rich. Well, first of all, the tax code eliminates taxes for a bunch of people. I don't personally like that. I think everybody should have skin in the game in this country. But he's saying, no, it favors the rich. And I would say to somebody doing that, okay, great. So it's favoring people who work hard, who want to get more out of life. Now, if you tell me it's favoring the rich that don't have to do anything, then I would tell you it's not a good code. But if you're telling me it's favoring people to get off their butts and go to work every day and want to and aspire to get rich, I have no problem with that. It's easy to push back on these knuckleheads that want you to believe that. What I would ask the guy, what? So what you're wanting me to do is set up a tax code that favors people to go into poverty. Is that what you want? I'm glad we're having the discussion of rich and poor. As a poor kid growing up, I will tell you something. The thing that drove me much of my existence was I'd watch my undeserving friends, in some cases, whose fathers were wealthy, and I watched how they squandered their fathers, their parents' wealth, or not really squandered it, but certainly didn't appreciate it. And I said to myself, I would so appreciate that. And then it drove me to say, I want to make sure my kids have a leg up financially. Now, if all I focused on was the idea, they're going to have a lot of money in the bank. They could be dumb, but they're going to have a lot of money. I'm going to hand them over a lot of money. You know what they're going to do? They're going to hand over that money to somebody smart, some industrious kid that says, I'll take that money. Or they're going to go hand it over to hookers and drug dealers. I don't know. But whatever, there's somebody ready to take your money if you're stupid about it. Anyway, I want to go back to this story. It's a story about Americana and this guy driving across the country, and he interviewed 35 people. And here's what one of the people said. His name is Sebastian de la Cruz. He's 12 years old. He gained national attention and backlash when he sang the national anthem during the 2013 NBA Finals in a mariachi outfit. He's born and lives in San Antonio, and he says being American is red, white, and blue, and being free. Doesn't matter what language you speak. If you're born in America, you're still American, no matter what you look like, no matter what. Now, I'm sure his take on that was based on, anchor babies and all that. Who knows the motivation? But this is a 12-year-old kid that's proud to be an American, no matter how he got here. I don't like the 14th Amendment that allows people to birth their babies in America and claim they're American. If you come from Nigeria and you're 9 months pregnant, you have your baby in America, and your baby's not American. If you are visiting this country and you have a baby, any more than if you were an American woman visiting Europe, visiting France or England or something, and I have my baby in France, so they're French and American. No, they're not. They're American. It's silly to think otherwise. Anyway, Taylor, 13, speaking about her ambitions in March, at the March for Science, said this about being American. I want all girls, especially girls of color, to know they can be part of science And more than that, they can be leaders in science. I want them to know that because I know that I'm American, that I am science. I'm not just the part people refuse to recognize. I don't know what she means by the last part of her sentence there, but what I do like about what she says, she's saying, I want to be a scientist. Nobody can stop me because I'm in America. Where could she live where they would stop her? There are certainly countries where that happens. Anyway, we'll come back to some of those. I want to move on a little bit and talk about Al Franken, especially on the heels of talking about little girls. You know, I said the left fashioned a noose that they thought was going to... You know what? Before we do that, before we go in Al Franken, let's do this. Let's talk about Hijab Barbie. Because Chelsea Clinton tweeted out a People article that celebrated the first ever Barbie to wear a hijab in the brand's 58-year history. And here's what she wrote. Barbie's breaking barriers. And then I don't know how to even pronounce this name, but Ibtihaj Muhammad was the first ever U.S. Olympic athlete to compete wearing a hijab at the 2016 Rio Olympic Games. And now she has her very own Barbie, the first to ever wear a Barbie in the brand's 58-year history. And people immediately started, what are you talking about? Why? The idea that somebody's wearing a hijab. So in other words, is she the first Muslim to compete in the Olympics? No. She's not even the first Muslim American. She's the first one to wear their garb. That's the level of ridiculousness that we celebrate in this country. Let me tell you what that lady should be proudest of. She should be proudest that she's in America. I will come full circle on why this is so important, why the anti-American is somebody that doesn't accept all the nonsense of the left, when in fact, the left are the biggest anti-Americans on the planet. But it was funny how some of the Twitter people came back on this. They said, nothing says breaking barriers like going back several centuries and treating women like property. Amorite, ladies. Love this. Barbie made her first hijab-wearing Shiro doll in honor of American fencing star Ibtihaj Muhammad, is what Chelsea Clinton tweeted. So we jokingly in our crew started saying, well, what could be the accessories for hijab Barbie? Do they have an honor-killing Barbie? Maybe a kit? Maybe they have a vaginal mutilation kit that comes with it. Accessories sold separately. I mean, seriously. Why is this? What is the left's obsession with un-Americanizing America? We're supposed to celebrate this notion that Mattel or whoever it is, Barbie, who makes it? Is it Mattel? I forget who the maker of it is, but we're supposed to be overwhelmed that they're honoring this other part of American culture. Look, Muslims that come to America and become Americans, they are part of American culture. The ones who come to America because they want to practice Sharia law, live in Muslim-only enclaves, and do the things that they do while simultaneously killing Americans, avowing openly that they want to take over the country, that's a whole different deal. And it's easy. The comparison for us is always, to me anyway, is with the Amish. Strange lifestyle, political sect that differs from us. I mean, I guess it's based in Christianity of some sort, but they're never a threat. You don't have to worry about, how many Amish you see at the Boston Marathon or running, in some big event or, whatever. But you do have to worry about that with the Muslims. Anyway, we got more to talk about, folks.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. There was a film made. It was called A More Perfect Union, and they took interviews of people about what it meant to be America and what the American experience was. And historian Gordon Wood said this: precisely because we are not a people held together by blood, no one knows who an American is except by what they believe. It is important that we do know our history because our history is the source of our Americanness. There's you've heard the saying, the tie that binds. We don't, what would it mean if we all had the same bloodline? That would be ridiculous. The beauty of America is we don't have the same bloodline. I would love to get these DNA's profiles and match them up and let people see who they're most related to and kin to, and where their parents and places of origin are. We're getting DNA done in my family just because we're all curious. And I'm talking about, needless to say, my brother and I are going to have a very similar experience, but my cousins are going to be a little different because of their other bloodlines and things like this. And I can't wait to discuss this at the next family reunion. I think it's going to be eye-opening. I talked about my family reunion where we learned one of my cousins traces back to our slave roots, the Clasby plantation. And it was fascinating. I'll never forget, we were riveted, as my cousin explained, back to back to back to back, and how far we could go with the pictures. And he goes, we drop off here, but here's what I learned through going through Ancestry.com and blah, blah, blah. It was amazing. When people wrote all men are created equal, they really meant men, but they didn't mean anything other than men except white men who own land. That's what they meant. But because the ideas are powerful, there's no way that they could get away with holding to that. It's not impossible when you have an idea that's as powerful, as revolutionary as a country, founded on the idea that just because you're in the world, just because you are here, you have a right to certain things that are common to all humanity. That's really what we say in those documents. The idea that we begin the Constitution with we, the people, even though they didn't mean me. This is what writer Rosemary Bray said. They had no idea ever I'd want to make a claim on that. And they'd been horrified if they'd known that any of us would. But you can't let that powerful of an idea out into the world without consequences. So this is a lady saying the phrase all men are created equal meant men. Maybe it did. But she's saying that even if they did mean that, it couldn't stay that way. And you know what's beautiful about those words in that Constitution is, in its own strange way, it was saying all people are created equal. When they said all men are created equal, did they really mean that about the slaves? I could make that argument about the slaves. But the Constitution wrote out slavery. So somebody in their wisdom knew it was going to apply to blacks as well. I mean, but the point I'm making about this is everybody doesn't view America the way we do. Here's what somebody else said about it that I think sums up the left's view of it. And this is from Vicente Martinez. It says, the American dream has no meaning for me. What it was founded on, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, in many ways I feel are used as billy clubs against minorities and cultural minorities, whether they be gay, different in any way from the norm in this country. I, for example, don't think I'd like to go to California because of what I look like. I could be pulled over and carted, and I would have to prove my ancestry. And look how long my family has been in northern New Mexico, 10 to 12 generations. So Vicente Martinez doesn't have a problem with America. What he has a problem with is liberalism that has allowed America to bring over so many illegals that Vicente now becomes one of them. It's the same problem I have with blacks. Bad blacks, there's no blurred lines between one black or another. When a cop stops somebody, he has to think of the worst possible situation. If somebody's going to think of a young black man in some sense and they run to thugdom, I get looped in there. Until they understand I'm not about that, I'm having to overcome. Now, it's my cross to bear. I don't have a problem with that. Give me 2 minutes of your time. You'll find out I'm not sagging. I don't have, crazy teeth in my mouth, and know nothing except rap music or whatever the stereotype is you want. I may fit some of it, but I won't fit most of it. You're going to find out he's a pretty respectful guy that you probably want to hang out with. So we all have our crosses to bear, but it's not America's fault. It's leftism's fault, that's for sure. Because let me tell you, the American spirit doesn't care what color you are, what religion you are, whatever. It just wants you to work hard and leave other people alone. This would be true of Islam. If the Muslims did not blow things up and want to kill us and openly say they want to kill the infidels and commit these jihads, none of us would care. That's just the truth. But we have enough evidence contrary. If the Mexican people, I'm talking about the illegals, the Mexican government, Mexican nationals, if they were to come here legally, then Vicente wouldn't have that problem. Vicente would be a legal guy, and he'd have his driver's license, his passport, and all his other stuff like any other American, and there would be no issue. And I could go on. With feminists, if women don't want to be groped and treated the way Al Franken treated them, they may want to take a look at the women that allowed this to happen. The feminists, the ones that Donald Trump talked about that says, there's a whole group of women out there that'll let you do whatever you want if you're a star. He wasn't lying. Even if he had been saying, I did this, he wouldn't have been lying. But he didn't say that, just to be clear. He said, there's a group of women out there, man, they'll let you grab them by him. They don't care. He didn't. Donald Trump spoke nothing but truth. And you know what makes feminists mad? They know it. He's talking about them. A woman with decorum isn't going to do that. She doesn't care what your status in life is. In fact, it means nothing to her. I was having this discussion with a friend of mine, and he said, Kevin, he said that, why we are lying about this, why do we even front on the idea of what women will allow people to do? He goes, man, I was not even a star when I went to a club, and he goes, it was crazy what women let me. And he's a good looking dude. He goes, well, I'm no star. He was talking about, we were talking about a story where he met an NBA ball player, and the dude is an ugly guy, seriously. And he went up and had a conversation with him. He's like, man, these women throwing themselves at you. And you know what the guy said? He says, I look at them all as, let's just say, female dogs. He says, I have no respect for them. And he says, I know why they come to me, why they're coming up on me, why they come over here in gaggles. And he showed him that big, fat championship ring and the fact that they know him. He says, I know the game. Anyway, I want to go down and talk about why the left doesn't want you to love America. Pro-America, folks, means unity. The left cannot have unity because things go badly. And I want you to think about it. If black people, for example, stop thinking ethnocentrically and begin to love America, then the left would lose everything. And the reason why I was thinking about this is because I was thinking about why is it that these people cannot get to me? I'm talking about even black folks. Kevin, you did that. I had an exchange with a guy. He said to me, I was a lying piece of crap. I've cleaned it up, and I should be ashamed of myself. It was a note. And, of course, I came back hard at him and called him a coward. So what should I be ashamed of? I live in a country that has allowed me and people who were slaves. I have slave blood in my veins, and I've overcome it all. And it's because of this country. Where could I do better? And went on. And anyway, I don't want to get too much into it, but the point is, I call him a sellout. He's a sellout. He's the coon. He's the guy that fronts, that pretends that he's better than me, as he ignores all the problems that I bring to the front. I said, I'm the one that has guts. I said, you don't have the guts to say what I said. He didn't know what to say. The left cannot have unity, folks, because things go badly for them, because America would feel good about ourselves. Why do you think black multimillionaires kneel for the national anthem in a country who gave them more opportunity than they can experience anywhere else? Why do you think the left exalt these men with awards like GQ's Citizen of the Year for Colin Kaepernick? The left must have high-profile Negroes who hate America. And the lesson is well worth the money. Kaepernick has taught a generation of young blacks that very same hatred. That's what they want. They do not want you to be unified around America. And that's why Donald Trump is so important with Make America Great Again and America First.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. It's the Kevin Jackson Show, KJRadio.com. Yeah, do me a favor. Make adjustments, please. Yeah, a little better, little better. Okay, we'll try that. Anyway, I'm glad you guys are here. I want to begin with a tweet from a guy by the name of Imperator Rex. And he's talking to apparently some people who have decided they're going to define liberalism for us. And here's what he ends up defining liberalism as. He says, liberal progressives are incurious people who are incapable of self-reflection. They confuse academic qualifications with intelligence and believe they are morally and intellectually superior to the deplorables. The mix of arrogance and elitism is toxic and their greatest weakness. And I wrote him back and said, there's no wonder they call you the Imperator, because what a great summation of leftism. That's what they are. These progressives, they really believe they're better than you. You know, here's the funny thing. We were talking about this over the weekend, and I said, I have friends, people that I've met. I met a guy recently, I'll give you an example, at a Lowe's. He saw me, he's like, hey, you're Kevin Jackson. I was like, yeah. And so he's excited. He calls his wife, hey, you never guess who I'm standing here with. And she's like, I have no idea. And she's a huge fox washer, and he tells her, and she's like, oh my gosh. So he hangs up, and we talk for a few minutes. And he says, hey, look, I'd love to golf with you, or spend some time at some point, because we got on the subject of golf. And I said, yeah, I'd love to. I just haven't had a chance to. So he says, hey, I'm a member of the country club. I'll take you over. And we golf together. And it's funny. So we're talking politics, of course. Insider stuff, hey, what, Kevin, tell me about so-and-so at Fox News, whatever. He's asking questions. And, of course, I'm only telling him what is public domain. But we have this discussion, and then he says, hey, you like barbecue? And I'm thinking, this is why I love conservatives. This is a white dude asking a brother, do I like barbecue? Of course I like barbecue. So he's like, look, I'm a pit master. Love to make barbecue. Love to have youth, family come over, whatever. Okay, cool. Done. But then he ends it by saying, hey, listen, would it be okay if I invited a few friends that are fans of yours? I'm like, no problem. Now, I personally find it very funny, number one, that the guy recognized me and he's excited about the idea of hanging out. We hang out together and he's even more excited. And now he wants to expand, the universe. And I would be, and I find this very funny because I've been to the parties where the guys you know, like you go to a Hollywood gathering and the big names are there and you're a nobody. I would be the centerpiece of this party. And it just cracks me up because I don't think of myself that way. But leftists, they thrive on that. They want to figure out, how do I take my celebrity and make more out of it? I had a guy come to my house. He did some maintenance. A wall had to be cut because of a problem with the bathroom. It was the piping was leaking. The pipes were leaking. So he comes over and he's doing maintenance. He's with a maintenance company. Another guy comes over and I meet this guy and turns out he's a big fan. So we should, you know, I introduced myself. He's like, yeah, man, holy cow. So we talked politics for 5 minutes. You know, he was here for a few hours, but I had things to do. So he leaves. His companion comes over, a few days later because he has to do something else on the house. It's a rented house, and they've got, whoever the owner is has a maintenance company that comes by and does things. So the next guy comes over, who I'd met earlier for another thing, and he says to me, hey, Mitch came back to the office. He was like, do you know whose freaking house I was just at? And he's like completely freaked out. And the guy's like, yeah, Kevin Jackson. He's like, yeah, man. And he's just going on and on and on. So anyway, hopefully I set the stage of all of this. But here's the point. It means nothing. I don't mean it in a sense that you mean nothing. It means I'm flattered beyond belief. But to me, there's nothing. I don't see my opinion meaning anything more than yours. When I started my brand, here's what I said to myself. I said, when you do this, you are speaking for the voiceless people in this country. I remembered growing up as a little boy in Brady, Texas, with my country, corn-fed white boy friends. And I had a handful of black friends. It was a little town. There weren't that many blacks. But I'd come from the city where I had black friends, still friends to this day. But most of my friends were formed during my years in this little country town in Central Texas. And I remembered how great these kids were, and I remembered how much smack was being talked against them when I would watch politics on TV. That's what motivated me. I was like, you don't even know what America is represented. And let me tell you, I went from little town to little town in southern state to southern state, and I have never been disrespected to the degree that the left wants you to believe. As a black man, I've been disrespected, and I was offended on behalf of my friends. I'm not fighting for them necessarily, but what I am fighting for is my belief in them. And that's the difference. And so when I started this brand, the Black Sphere brand, which we've transitioned over to just Kevin Jackson for the most part, but when I started this brand, it was, I'm going to give voice to Robert Riggs, to Daryl Probst, and to Calvin Evans, and all these other friends of mine who would die for me. And the left says, no, they're racist. That's why I did it. It wasn't because I thought, ooh, I'm going to be a big star, whatever. They wanted me to come back to my hometown and get a key to the city. And I haven't done it yet, but I will eventually. But my point to all of it is I feel like this is a necessary thing to do. And it isn't to do it because I want to be the big guy when I go home to get a key to my little city population less than 6,000. Actually, I think we went to 6,003. So that's why we do this. And leftists, they, as he says, they're incurious. They have no reason to search for the truth. They don't self-reflect. They don't look at things that are negative in their lives and go, you know what? This is how that was caused. And they do believe that because they've got some sort of book sense, because they can quote Shakespeare, that makes them some amazing people. They're dumb. They really are. And it's what I'm going to do is I'm focusing today on what it means to be American and how we represent the country and how if we allow them to continue to gain a foothold, America will not be a better country. So we'll be talking about race when we get back. Gillibrand, we got Al Franken, a lot to cover, folks. Listen to the Kevin Jackson Show.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful 4-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanyourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
One day after radio host Leanne Tweeden accused him of kissing her and taking a lewd picture that you're seeing on the screen there without her consent. Slate.com says Franken ought to resign. So does Vice and 2 top Democrats in the state of Minnesota. A feminist writing for the Washington Post, though, says Franken ought to stay. Mother Jones's Kevin Drum says resignation would be a gross overreaction to the offense. Ann Coulter's been around a long time, watching this kind of stuff on the American left for decades, and she joins us tonight. Ann, it's great to see you.
Great to be here, Tucker.
I assume that you know Al Franken because he's always around. He's always selling books. You are too. So what's your informed opinion on this story?
Well, technically, he's always selling books by putting me on the cover of his books. My informed opinion is, for one thing, the Democrats do not care what Republicans have to say about it, so I may as well tell you the truth of what they ought to do. I don't think any Democrats are watching Fox News, but if they were smart, they'd get rid of him. I mean, in Minnesota, he would be replaced by a much more woke Democrat, maybe Keith Ellison, more likely a feminist. You have an actual photo here. I mean, can you imagine if that were a member of the Duke lacrosse team? The lacrosse across the country would have to be shut down.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson. That, of course, was Ann Coulter on Tucker Carlson's show. And it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to see what would happen if you flipped the script on this and it wasn't Al Franken, because we have Judge Roy Moore to look at. And I love it that we've got a compare and contrast. You have a person who's been accused of wrongdoing, sexual proclivities, whatever, dalliances, 35, 40 years ago, with completely unproven. And then you've got a guy who admits, yeah, I used to do that. And as Tucker alluded, Franken's just a vile human being. He's a vile person. He's like Sheila Jackson Lee. Their staff doesn't even like him. But, there you go. So you've got, all you got to do is flip the script. Imagine on the heels of Roy Moore if we had pictures of a senator where this had happened. Or we had a senator who was under investigation for paying prostitutes or whatever, like Senator Menendez. Just imagine these things. Menendez isn't even mentioned in mainstream media. This is just, it's incredible to watch how the left handles things when it's their stuff. See, I don't care whether it's Menendez or Franken or anybody else. I think these things are not good for particularly for people in power. Now, let me back up a little bit. Al Franken's picture with the lady where he's doing her breast. There's hardly a jokester among us who hasn't done something like that. Women do it. Fake like they're going to grab your crotch. In the case of the left, Joy Behar, she physically does. There's a photo montage of Joy Behar, Miley Cyrus, and many of these other leftist women, Ellen, grabbing men's crotches. In the case of Ellen, pretending she's going to go in for a dive on a lady's breast, and so on and so forth. And you don't hear any outcry. And let me tell you, amongst us girls, let's just be honest, conservatives, we don't give a crap. That picture of Franken, doing that while the lady was asleep, that doesn't rise to the level of anything. That is schoolboy prank. Let's just be honest. Here's the deal. We've been conditioned to look at these things now differently. If you even ask a woman out as a man these days, it could be considered sexual harassment. Not doing it 10 times, doing it twice. If she tells you no the first time and you go, well, maybe she was just having a bad day, or she didn't want to go out that day, or she made an excuse. If you ask a second time, it's harassment. So we live in this highly charged time, and now people, and I think, quite frankly, this is something to keep men off kilter. So you don't know what to do. I've heard a guy one time, I don't remember who he was, but he said, under the rules today, I would not have married my wife. And he says, because I pestered her. He goes, I asked her out multiple times. I was like leaving notes, and it got to be cute to her that this guy really liked her. If you do that today, you're a stalker and you're in jail. And, you're Bubba's boyfriend in the pokey. So the times have changed dramatically. And the fact of the matter is, let's just keep it real. What Al Franken did was nothing. It really wasn't. Now, him trying to rewrite the script so he could have a kiss with this girl during the USO, whatever, that's a different story. But even that, okay, good. Look, she's an attractive girl. If I got script control and this hot babe is with me on a USO thing, hey, I tell you what, can we write in a kiss? I'd ask her, is it okay if we write in a kiss? There's nothing wrong. But what makes it wrong is when the left just beats it into us. Political correctness and men are this and men are that and men. And they do all this stuff. And then suddenly, what used to be benign behavior is now, oh, look at what he did. So it's only natural that we're going to throw this back in their face. If you want to make a world where people don't talk to each other and, you practically as a guy, you have to wait for a woman to say, I'm interested. And then you better document it because it will come back. Well, that's the world we live in. So I want to focus on what Hillary Clinton had to say on this. And then I'm going to come back to what Trevor Noah said on it as well. So here's what Clinton said.
Of course, some pretty serious allegations, Secretary Clinton, have come out about Al Franken. Allegations of sexual harassment and also sexual assault. Should he resign because he is a sitting senator?
Look, Al Franken, is a friend of mine, and I deeply regret what he did. There's no excuse for his behavior, none at all. But he's called for an investigation. He's apologized to the woman involved. Apparently she's accepted the apology. So I think we've got to, recognize that he agreed to an ethics investigation. It will go to the ethics committee. It will investigate whatever the situation was, and they'll decide about what, if any, action should be taken based on that behavior. And I think that's the appropriate process because, I think that something like that coming into the public arena and Al's very quick acceptance of responsibility and apology and his willingness to be investigated and to take the consequences is the kind of accountability I'm talking about.
Oh, welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson. It's the Kevin Jackson Show. Hillary Clinton said the magic word, accountability. Now, unfortunately, because my producer doesn't know what he's doing, we don't have enough time to go into this right now, but I want to come back with this clip when we get back from a break. Got to take a short break. Got to pay the bills. I got to pay. Well, anyway, we'll be back in just a bit, because what I want to do is I want to dissect what Hillary Clinton just said and apply it to save Hillary's life. We'll be back in just a bit.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Of course, some pretty serious allegations, Secretary Clinton, have come out about Al Franken. Allegations of sexual harassment and also sexual assault. Should he resign because he is a sitting senator?
Look, Al Franken, is a friend of mine, and I deeply regret what he did. There's no excuse for his behavior, none at all. But he's called for an investigation. He's apologized to the woman involved. Apparently, she's accepted the apology. So I think we've got to, recognize that he agreed to an ethics investigation. It will go to the ethics committee. It will investigate whatever the situation was, and they'll decide about what, if any, action should be taken based on that behavior. And I think that's the appropriate process, because, I think that something like that coming into the public arena, and Al's very quick acceptance of responsibility and apology, and his willingness to be investigated and to take the consequences is the kind of accountability I'm talking about.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. That, of course, was Hillary Clinton, and she's giving an excuse to Al Franken. And before I even get into dissecting any of this, I want to just ask you a very simple question. This is when we do these things, we're about to start these things called idea seminars, and they teach you how to think like me. If you want to do that, or if your son or your daughter, you're going to want to bring them to these, because these are things that will show you how to win an argument, and how. And I'm talking about just using common logic. Now, that was Hillary Clinton, and all you have to do to twist Hillary up on this is say, Hillary, what would you be saying if this were a Republican senator? You think she would be providing cover? First of all, she couldn't have led off with, he's a friend of mine. Now, she goes on to say there's no excuse for his behavior. And to you, I say, that's nonsense. Al Franken's got plenty of excuses for that behavior. He's a comedian. At the time, that's what he was. He's a man who's around an attractive woman, probably trying to make her, like him. That's an excuse. The biggest excuse is he didn't do anything. I would ask any of you, have you done or seen something similar to this occur in your life? Has one of your friends pretended to grab the butt of one of your other, whether it be male, female? How many times have you done that? Have you pretended to grab somebody's butt? Or if they're asleep, you played with them a little bit or something like that. Maybe Franken thought that he was better friends with this woman. They were on some sort of a junket. Maybe he thought they were better friends. I could give you 50 excuses for what he did. And I can practically guarantee you, to a person listening to this program, you either participated or you willingly watched somebody do something very similar. So what are we talking about here? Why are we having a conversation? Look, am I defending Franken? No. I don't need to defend Franken. I hope this ruins his career. But because this is what political correctness has done. It's ruining people's careers over nonsense. How far do we go back? I was asking a friend of mine, I don't know what types of behavior are acceptable or not acceptable. I was raised a pretty respectable kid by my grandparents. They use words like courting. Well, if you're going to court that girl, you need to go talk to her parents and blah, blah, blah. Okay. And so that's what you do. You go, if you wanted to go out on a date, excuse me, Mr. Johnson, I'd like to take, Susan out on a date. We're going to go to Leo's Drive-In and have her burger, and I'll have her home by 10 o'clock or whatever. I mean, that was what you did. So, but I'll put it to you this way. Go back 3 decades in your life. Go back 4 decades in your life and try to remember, if you offended somebody, what were the sensibilities during that time? Now, I'm going to tell you, as a conservative, my sensibilities have pretty much remained the same. They've tweaked a bit over the years, but things that offended me when I was in my 20s offend me, now. Things that didn't offend me pretty much don't offend me now, with very rare exception. But we're supposed to go with the time. So now, something Franken did, I don't know when he did it, but something he did decades ago is now, ooh, look at what he did. And it's nothing. In the scheme of things, it is a joke. If we take politics out of this, forget he's a senator, forget he's a Democrat, whatever. Again, I'm not defending this fool. He's a clown. He's a total butt munch. But I will tell you, he's done nothing. So anyway, Hillary says there's no excuse for his behavior. There are total excuses for his behavior. And if you believe there are no excuses for his behavior, you're being lulled in to the crazy, politically correct, illogical world, incurious world that I mentioned from Imperator Rex that the leftists live in. There's plenty of reason to question that. And even as Republicans, you know what we should do? We should say, look, Al Franken gets a pass. That is nothing. That the world that Franken is living in is if we wanted to change the hearts and minds of the left right now, we would say to them, look, that's nothing. You know why people won't do it? Because they'll go, oh, well, that'll look like we're the people who are bad. We don't care about women. We could say to that lady, who, by the way, Hillary Clinton says she's forgiven Al. But we could say to her, look, no offense, I get it. Al Franken is a repulsive guy, and you can say a lot of things about him. But honestly, that is not sexual harassment. That's a dude who's a jokester. Let's not forget the sucker is I'm using my finger quotes. He's a comedian, and he's trying to be funny. I look back on what I did, and it wasn't even funny. Yes, it was. It was funny. We do stuff like that. Let me tell you. There's not a dude that was ever in a frat. You can eliminate them from any political office because frat boys have done far worse. I'll tell you what we did one time. When I was in football camp, we had a guy who, we suspected he was gay. He was weird. He was my roommate for part of football camp, and he's a weird guy. And, we suspected he was gay. Well, a guy, when we were switching roommates, another guy came in and we were like, hey, you're going to be roommating with this other dude. I won't say his name, but you're going to be roommating with him. And anyway, we all got a little bit toast. Well, not me, but other people were drinking and getting all right. We're not supposed to drink at my school. I went to military school. And this guy got drunk and passed out. And we rubbed Vaseline between his buns and pulled his pants down like he was sagging and put him in his rack. And the next morning, he's wakes up and we asked hey, so how things go last night with the guy? Almost said his name. With your roommate. And he didn't say anything. And so that's the kind of crap we did. Okay? And so I can tell you there's hardly and I don't believe this just limited to men. Women have done these types of things too, playing around. But I'm not going to speak for women because I don't know. But I know that my suspicion is that women have done these things too. So if we were to say, we're not going to get caught up in this. We'd be better people for it. And it isn't because we could say, look, y'all can trash out all you want. We get it. We think he's a despicable person. He doesn't deserve to be a senator. But this is not what we're going to go after him on. We're going to go after him on policy and his idiotic stuff. And by the way, that same behavior that you're condemning, he still does all that stuff. He's still the same person. That's the way you fight that. But anyway, here's the other side of this thing. Hillary says they're going to have an ethics investigation. Well, congratulations. The fox is going to watch the hen house. The Senate Ethics Committee, this is the same as the Office of Compliance I talked about the other day. The Office of Compliance that allows the Congress to do whatever it wants to do. These are the office that lets rapists and other sexual harassers get away with using your tax dollars to pay people to hush up. Yeah, that's real punishment. You know, when you're paying out of your pocket for your sexual dalliances, that's a different thing. When you're held accountable because you've really done something wrong, not this Franken crap, but this real stuff that's happening, like what Hillary Clinton's husband did. And that brings me to the last point she made. Quick acceptance of responsibility. Does anybody remember when Bill Clinton got accused of, having an intern in the White House and doing the things that he was doing, and some of the other allegations that were made against him that even rise to the form of him going to prison? Does anybody remember how quickly Bill Clinton accepted responsibility? Boy, he was Johnny on the spot. Yeah, I'm really sorry for my affair with Kathleen Willey, whatever her name is. I'm really sorry that I raped Juanita Broderick. I'm really sorry that I sexually harassed Paula, what's her? I forget her name, but whatever. And the litany of other women. Did he fess up? Even when we caught him with Monica, it took an act of Congress, quite frankly. I mean, I'm not even joking about that, to get the man to admit to it. And Hillary Clinton's talking about quick acceptance of responsibility.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
What it means to be American. I look at this Al Franken situation and I say to myself, this isn't the America we built. People do weird things, lewd things occasionally. You know what would have happened in the old days if Al Franken did that? The woman would have gotten up and said, eventually saw the picture or heard about it and said, Al, what's up? And Al would have said, I'm really sorry, blah, blah, blah. And that would have been the end of it. And this is not a story. It's not a story to recur decades later and potentially ruin a man's career. A vile, despicable Democrat senator who cheated his way into office. Even with that, I will tell you what Al Franken did. You can look at it any way you want. I don't care if there are women out there going, Kevin, you don't understand what he did. He didn't do jack. I know women who are aggrieved in far more vicious ways in just normal life than what Al Franken did. And we want to jump on. We want to pile on. This is, look, again, not protecting this clown, but the fact of the matter is we have to show when we're bigger than him. And I'm not saying turn the other cheek. This isn't a turn the other cheek thing. This is something that showcases the true differences between us and them. See, we've been led down the primrose path about political correctness, and it is destroying men. It is destroying our culture. Men are not able to be men. You can't go up to some woman and say, hey, unless you look like Brad Pitt and she's all over it. We play this clip from time to time, comic clip of this comedian that says that there's a fine line between stalker and, and person you want to be with. And you could be, ask a girl out for a date at the job and she's like, oh my gosh, you just sexually harassed me. But Brad Pitt could be, butt naked in front of her window, throwing rocks at it, and she'd be like, oh my gosh, Brad, he's so dreamy. And it's true. See, all these things are a matter of interpretation. If that lady liked Al Franken, that picture would be in her wallet. But she didn't, because Al's a despicable leftist who, she found to be the vile person that he is. And so there you go. And somebody gets the picture to reinforce what we're supposed to hear about Al Franken. Look, I don't know what Al Franken's done. I will just tell you this. By the definition, most of the men that I know, I'm talking about good quality men who are now married with kids and blah, 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 living the great lives, they have sexually harassed women by the definition we live by today. This is not just about Roy Moore or Al Franken. This is about an attack on men. The real attack should have occurred on leftist men, not us. And by the way, Franken's a leftist, but I want to make a distinction here. Harvey Weinstein is a perfect example of leftist men. And the women who allowed him to do what they did and the other men who knew what Harvey was doing, they're all on the left. This has nothing to do with us. Yet every time you turn around, this is about, oh, men are so awful and men. So I want to play a clip of Trevor Noah. And he's making fun of this situation, and he's, trying to make fun of Al Franken. And this is as close as he comes to it. But look at where it ends up if you don't believe what I'm telling you.
Our following breaking news, Democratic Senator Al Franken. He is now being accused of groping a radio news anchor back in 2006. There is a picture of that. And also, she says that he kissed her without her consent.
Al Franken, hashtag you too. And that face doesn't help. Like, he clearly thinks it's funny in that moment. She's not in on the joke. She's asleep. And to be honest, even if there wasn't a woman in that picture, that poses its own crime. What do you have to say for yourself?
Franken released a statement reading in part, I don't know what was in my head when I took that picture, and it doesn't matter. There's no excuse. I look at it now and I feel disgusted with myself. It isn't funny. It's completely inappropriate.
Well, you know what? At least he apologized, and that apology seems sincere. I just didn't like the accompanying photo. I'm not going to lie. But the story is another example of how at all levels, we men have been complicit in perpetuating the culture that devalues women. I don't care who you are, Democrat, Republican, black, white, rich, poor. Men. Because you forget, it's not just Al Franken in the picture. It's the guy who's taking the picture. His Billy Bush. Who's that guy?
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. See, this is what I'm talking about. The biggest crock. It's men. See, this young South African chump that now occupies a big audience is trying to explain it's not women's fault. It's men. Really? You know who I blame? I blame feminists. See, feminists have created their own culture. They have their own atmosphere. And it exudes, it exists everywhere you have leftism that's pervasive. They want to blame guys like me, guys like you, and the ladies, your husbands listening to this program. They want to blame us. I take zero responsibility for it. I have exalted women my entire life. Don't misunderstand me. I've certainly not been the best guy every time with the girls I've dated or whatever else. But I will put my record up against 99.9% of the men in the world. That's how good. And I would venture to say you feel much the same. Well, I'll put my record up against 50% of the world. Because the 50% of us who understand what it means to be, who respect women, not only as our mates and what have you, but in business and elsewhere, what do I have to be ashamed of? I understand the difference. If a woman that I worked with, came up and in the right circumstances and grabbed one of my buns, I'd be like, whatever. I get it, Sheila. You've been watching. You've been checking me out for a better part of a year. What took you so long, right? It would be funny. I'm not saying that guys should do that to women or whatever. I'm just saying under the right circumstances, you get it. But we've been told, this is the way it is. No, feminists have created this environment. They're equivalent to men. Guys, we hit each other in the shoulder. We smack each other on the butt. We say lewd jokes. Look, let's just be honest. We are not the keepers of the sanctity of America, of whatever. Fill in your word. I don't need to give you all the words. I'm only doing radio here. But you get what I'm saying? When did we become these, paragons of virtue? We're not. We're going to talk about, locker room talk and what, and I'm not saying we're vile creatures necessarily, but I'm just saying we guys have this thing to say, what to hell with decorum. We're just talking amongst guys here. By the way, women do the same thing. But for Trevor Noah, it's all men. We've all been complicit. We've done this. A man can only do what a woman allows him to do. I know people, Kevin, don't you say that about rapists and all that. Look, I get it. Don't try to, use the other side of the argument. I'm talking about in normal life. Women give you the permission, and it's through body language. Sometimes it's out and out. Yeah, hey, listen, if you ever wanted to, be my boyfriend, who knows? It's all nuanced. But this idea that Trevor Noah wants to blame men for this is ridiculous. That would be to say, well, there's no gold diggers. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about basketball players. I have they're old school guys, but I had basketball player friends that were at the top of their careers when we hung out. We're still friends, but we just don't see them as often. And I was telling a friend of mine, I won't say the name, but I went to one of the best basketball players in history, and he was at the top of his game, and I went to his hotel room, invited, and he had code words, and I go up, and I think maybe I told this story, but I go up there, and there were probably 8 stunning women in this room, 4 guys, 2 of which were players, and 2, I'm talking about basketball players on his team, and 2 others who were just guys that were friends of those players or whatever. And it was the makings of this little party that was about to happen. I just came up to say, what's up, man? Good to see you. Good game. Blah, blah, blah. It was after the game. And I'm watching these younger, and by the way, 2 of the girls had mulatto babies. They were white girls with little, we call them swirls, little mulatto kids. And I just remember looking around this room going, holy cow, these guys can have anybody. And these girls throw themselves at these men. 2 of them were like, okay, so y'all got to tell us where the after party is. They were begging these guys, tell us where we could possibly go meet our future husbands. That's what they're looking for. There was no limit to what these women would do if these basketball players wanted them. No limit. And so feminists want to pretend that they're not complicit. Leftists, progressives, Democrats want to pretend that they're not the reason. No, it's men. I'm not taking responsibility for what they do.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. It's another hour of the Kevin Jackson Show. KJRadio.com. If you want to call the program, 844-551-8255. There was an old song, what was in the 70s, 80s? Captain and Tennille. Love will keep us together. You remember that song? Love will keep us together. Think of me, babe, whenever. I don't remember the words. But I just remember loving the song. And we talk often about togetherness and unity and things like this. And what do? We then look at diversity. And that word to me is really strange because it's the diversiveness of everything. And the left don't even understand it. When they talk about that word, they're actually talking about, oh, we've got all these disparate things, these ideas, and we bring them together, supposedly bring them together. And this diversity is what makes us great. No, it isn't. It's our unity that makes us great. We talk about diversity like, oh, it's a feather in the cap of people to talk about diversity. We've got a diversity program. Every business, practically every big business, has somebody in their human, resources department, what they call it, the people area, whatever, and they focus on diversity. They should be focusing on unity. They should be focusing on the unifying principle that guides their company, and the diverse nature of their company is what creates the unity. I know to some it may sound a little bit antithetical, but it isn't. The company has one goal and one mission. And how they come about that could be from 1,000 different points of view, and that's phenomenal. But there isn't anything about diversity in your culture. You have one corporate culture, or you should. America has one culture. It is the American spirit. It is what defines us. And the left will tell you, no. We have to think about the Latinos and the blacks and the women and the Muslims and No, you don't. They got to think about us. If you're black and you're thinking about the black condition, you're an idiot. If you're white, do I need to tell you white folks? Come on, y'all get it. Yeah, I know. I'd say that to make some people mad. If Mexicans or any other branch of Latino is like, well, the Mexican people in America, you know what? You just said the wrong thing. I don't give a crap about black people in America, Mexican people in America, white people in America, women in America, you name it. America is all you need to hear. Think about when you just heard me say that, America. What does that conjure up for you? The American spirit gives you everything you need to be successful in this country. There are no obstacles in your way that cannot be overcome if you embrace America, what it stands for, the American spirit. And no matter how much these idiot leftists try to kill it, talking about diversity, there is not a person on the planet that gets to America who understands what America is about, who comes here and says, I'm going to bring my Swedish spirit. I'm going to bring my Chinese spirit. I'm going to bring my Sudanese spirit. Name it. Put your whatever you want on it. Because you know what? There are no Americans clamoring to go anywhere to any of those other countries. You don't care. No, it's not that you don't care about them. You prove that you care about them all the time. We are the most loving, giving people on the planet. But I don't need to care about your culture when I have a culture that I embrace wholeheartedly. And it will actually embrace you so that I can say, so Sven, tell me what life is like in Sweden. So I can determine what part of that I'd like to incorporate into my American spirit and what part I want to leave behind. Well, Kevin, you have a 70% tax rate. You can keep that. But we have beautiful women and love to ski. I like that part. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to have everything I don't even want it because there's always going to be something bad. That's what the American spirit, man. The world wants to be us. We're the good-looking girl or guy who is the great athlete, who is a person of character, who's a person with a heart. We're all of that. And a bag of chips. But the left want to claim in this idea around diversity and bringing in all these different cultures and all that they're the people that are uniting the country. They do this to do the exact opposite. They are not uniting anything. They want you to be diverse. What do I always tell you guys? I tell you the left will tell you who they are by what they put their efforts into. They claim they want diversity, unity rather, when in fact they're telling you, I want diversity. I want people to think in their own groups. I want the anti-war people to not even consider the idea that there is a need for war. I want the blacks to not even think about the idea of what life is like for whites and how they're being oppressed at this point. I want the Latinos to believe that immigration is the biggest thing and that they have should be in this country. And I'm talking about the illegals. I want the Muslims to believe that they have a part of America, blah, blah, blah. And they get everybody over here. Do they want to unite them? No. In fact, it's quite the opposite. What they tell you is what they want. They want diversity. But not the way you see it. They want it as segregation. They want it as special interest. And they fool you. And you get fooled into it. You get tricked into this idea. Well, we need diversity. We need black people and white people and all. Yeah, you do. Do you need it mandated? Or can you come up on diversity the same way this country has come into a diversity, which is people come to you, they want a job. You look at their character, you look at you look at, people they've worked for before, and you say, you know what, Abdul, you look like a hard worker. I'll hire you. You know what, Rodrigo, you look like a hard worker. You know what, Jaquan, you look like a hard worker. You know what, Sally, you look like a hard worker. I want you. That's the way we diversified. But we diversified under the unifying principle that everybody pulls their weight, that everybody, contributes in some form. Not this nonsense of the left. Anyway, we got a ton to talk about. I hope this has been enlightening for you. It's Kevin Jackson. Show us what you're listening to. Al Franken, we talked about him. Gillibrand. She slammed Hillary Clinton. That was interesting.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful 4-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanyourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. Do we really need to discuss Roy Moore, Judge Moore? I mean, I've been thinking about this, and I've covered it today, and not directly, indirectly, with respect to Al Franken. I talked about Al Franken earlier, and I said, why are we going after Franken over nonsense? You want to know why? Because we want, comeuppance. We want Al Franken and the left to suffer because they have for so long thrown our sanctimonious behavior in our face. Judge Roy Moore is a God-fearing, church-going guy who's made mistakes. I don't know what mistakes they are. I don't believe the accusations that are currently being alleged against him are them. I think they're just lies. But we see that happening. We've seen the Alinsky tactics, the scorched earth tactics. Well, I wouldn't say that, because that would mean they're burning their own earth. But I've seen their tactics used against us for many years. And we say, you know what? We need to get even. So we jump on the Franken bandwagon. This is one of the wagons we don't need to be jumping on. Al Franken took a joking picture of this woman. And as I said earlier, he tried to write in a kiss into some skit they were performing. That girl she was a knockout. I mean, as a guy, if you had script control and you could theoretically write in a kiss for that beautiful lady, go for it. You're not gonna be. I'm not gonna be mad at you. All she can do, I don't want to kiss you. Okay, cool. Let's write that out. But you'd be remiss not to do it. Franken did the smart thing. How else is that? Have you looked at this guy? He's an ugly dude. I mean, think about it. Al Franken, if it weren't for the fact that he was a funny man and doing SNL during the heyday, who would want to be with this guy? The same is true of Weinstein. They relied on their ability to write scripts and hold the carrot of Hollywood out in front of women, or they'd never get anybody that would want to be with them, not sexually anyway. So I don't blame the guy for that. I get why we want to get him, but this isn't the way to do it. This is to say, Al, see, this is the perfect time for us to jump on your monkey butt and explain to you, how the left works and destroy your career. But we're not going to do that. We'll leave that for the leftist. But what you need to understand is that we're not going to allow it to happen to Judge Roy Moore. But I just don't know how much I want to talk about this. I think a lot of it is actually shifted. And it's now, we're looking at the accusers now. And here's what I love about this. It's almost like we've educated the media to say, I don't know. Like, for example, you bring Gloria Allred into your case, and we're like, oh, here we go. Here's who do we have that's asking about grilling Allred? Who do we have?
Judge Moore preside over her divorce. Was this just filing of papers? Clear this up for us. How much involvement did she have involvement with him? What's going on here?
We will answer any and all questions about that issue and any issue that they would like to bring up at the hearing, which should be held within 2 weeks. If they do not have that hearing, then we'll go to Plan B, and I will say at that time what Plan B is. So I'm not going to comment on that at this time. I will talk about the yearbook.
Can I ask you something? Yeah, I'm going to ask you about that. But when I hear your answers, because I heard you on CNN earlier, when I hear your answers, it seems like your answers are meant to compel him to speak on the record and under oath. And listen, I'm not a lawyer here. Are you trying to compel him to do that because you want to get him on the record and you want to be able to depose him? What's your end game here? Why?
Well, of course, there is no legal process except the one I am proposing, which is essentially a political process combined with a legal process.
So then why can't you say if he presided over her divorce case, Gloria?
Well, I'm saying we're not going to put out breadcrumbs of pieces of evidence.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. So even Don Lemon is skeptical, but here's what's interesting about the comment. Either Judge Moore presided over her divorce or he didn't. It's not like that's evidence. It's either true or it isn't. And it's a matter of record, I would believe. This isn't difficult to get a hold of. Gloria Allred is an ambulance-chasing snake, is what she is. But what I want to talk about right now is the shift. We've got Roy Moore, who was under scrutiny. Now, Al Franken has his allegations he's brought out. Then suddenly, you know who creeps back into the news? Bill Clinton. So here's Chris Matthews speaking on that particular subject.
That is good journalism. You just heard there. Good interviewing, catching a politician, a top politician, and getting that politician to make a real statement, which Senator Gillibrand did make right there. Has Bill Clinton's day of reckoning come? I personally think it has come.
That, of course, was Chris Matthews in reference to Gillibrand, a senator, I believe, out of New York, a lady, an up-and-comer mover and shaker within the Democrat Party, saying that Bill Clinton should have resigned at the time. Many others have said the same thing. Now, the irony of this is Gillibrand knew of Bill Clinton's, sexual issues and the things that chased him from his past, while she fully supported Hillary Clinton. Now, so here's why I'm explaining it this way. Everybody we're talking about, Chris Matthews, Gillibrand, many others, Donna Brazile, Elizabeth Warren, all of these people, we're talking about people who knew the history of the Clintons. They knew, and they can pretend all they want, they know Hillary's complicit nature in the cover-up involving her husband and all the womanizing he did, whether it was consensual affairs to out-and-out rape of people like Renita Broderick. And now, 20 plus years later, they want to go, oh, yeah, well, we should have litigated that further. Pardon me, we should have talked about it more during the time of the Clintons. You're exactly right. And what's really interesting about it is in the wake of all this other stuff, they all want to cleanse their palates. They want to pretend as though, well, now that you mention it, we should have done a better job. I shouldn't have. What, Gillibrand? You shouldn't have supported Hillary Clinton, the woman who enabled her husband to rape and molest multiple women? Same is true of Weinstein. Look, I don't have a problem explaining to you guys about the left and their nature and the fact of the matter that they would dare pretend that, oh, we didn't know. You can say you didn't know about Weinstein. Maybe I can let you get away with that. You can't pretend you didn't know about Bill Clinton. So Gillibrand and many others, they go out there. She fully supported Hillary Clinton, fully supported Bill. Bill was brought out under the campaign trail under the auspice of being Hillary's not so secret weapon. Didn't go over very well either. They touched on it at the time. That was their time to start correcting this. I'll put it to you this way. Flip the script. Let's find out that Donald Trump is Bill Clinton or anything close. That Melania was Hillary and allowed this to happen. Is he president? Do you still support him at this point? The answer is very clear and it's very simple. No, because we don't behave that way.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Museum of the Bible opened Saturday in Washington, D.C. It cost $500 million, making it the largest privately funded museum in the city. A big part of that money comes from the conservative Christian family-run company Hobby Lobby. Chip Reed is at the 430,000-square-foot museum just blocks from the Capitol. Chip, good morning.
As you can see, this is a museum of biblical proportions. It's one of the biggest in this city of museums, even bigger than the massive Air and Space Museum. The people who build it say it's the most complicated project they've ever done, and Washington politics made it even more so.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Kevin Jackson here. You can imagine Saudi money's coming over to open up the Museum of the Quran. You got to know it. It'll happen. Billions of dollars will get spent on that one, and it will have to be bigger and more majestic than the Museum of the Bible. However, the folks at Hobby Lobby who put this together, Steve Green, I applaud you. I applaud you for putting religion front and center. You know, we run from the topic of religion. The minute somebody starts talking about 1 Corinthians verses 3, chapter 14, chapter 14 verses 3 through 5. Oh, no, you don't do that. Don't go there with me. Let me tell you something. This show is nothing but religion. It's nothing but religion. When I say conservative, I'm saying Christian conservative, Judeo-Christian conservative. All the things that we talk about, the common sense virtues of man here, are nothing more than biblical principle without, me going all Romans chapter 10 verses 3 through 7, that kind of thing. Because I don't know the Bible to that degree. Now, my older brother, he could come on here and we could have some fun because he's a theologian. But I'm not. I'm just a common sense practitioner of Christianity who believes that people should do right about one another. And I don't care. I disagree with my friends on many things. I disagree with them on their car choices. I've disagreed with some of my male friends on the women they've chosen. I've disagreed with some of my female friends on the men they've chosen. I've disagreed with them on where they're going to vacation. I've disagreed on them with what I got out of a movie. I've disagreed with them on lots of different things. But you know what we agree on? We agree that we are all flawed human beings. And those flaws draw us not only closer to one another, but closer to God, or they should anyway. You don't push people away when you find out they're flawed. You bring them closer to you. And you're looking for people, for camaraderie, for people to be around you who, as the Bible would say, are equally yoked. Every time I think about situations like this, I go back to the frontier days, and you ask yourself, who did you want? I mean, you're in a new country, building a life. Who would you want around you? Some deadbeat's always got his hand out, or the guy that says, Kevin, came over to shoe the horses, brought your family some groceries we grew from this, and you say, hey, glad you came over. We were just about to come over to bring you some beef. We just slaughtered one of our animals, and we're going to be going over, whatever. That's what you were looking for. Life was simple. And let me explain something to you, folks. Life remains that simple. We can put all the accoutrements around it. We can make life complicated and say, ooh, I want to know what party I'm going to, or what kind of car I drive, or house I live in, or where I'm going to vacation, etc. But what it all boils down to, really, when you get to the crux of it, is you want to be doing something that you choose with the people that you love. And the only thing that dictates how that happens is your finances or whatever else. But at its core, if you weren't spending that time in Hawaii or Costa Rica or some, lavish place that, staying in a 5-star hotel, and you were right at home barbecuing with friends and family, you should get the same level of enjoyment. The left makes that impossible. Anyway, thank you, Steve Green and Hobby Lobby, for building a Bible museum. Something in America that we can all go to and look at our faith and understand it. The closest thing you have to the Vatican just got built right in D.C., and you should go check it out. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about was, and the theme of the show today is being American. Being American is about the search for truth. It's also about the concept of building something from nothing. And I mentioned the frontier people because that's what happened. If you think about everything we have today, somebody started it with an idea, and that idea has progressed over the years, over the decades, over the centuries. And now we find ourselves in this amazing country, very young, but still going very strong. And I know people talk, well, it's time for America to end. Countries only last a certain amount of time and then it's over. That's not true of us. It's not. Let me tell you something. We have written a constitution. We have created an American spirit that can survive the test of time, and already has in much degree. Think about the things that could have ripped apart this country. The idea that Democrats thought at one point that people should be slaves, the property of other men. And they continued to fight that battle against them. Even after they got their butts kicked, they continued to fight that battle against the country. They were dividing the country. A country that said, look, we've already had to defeat our biggest enemy to date. Now we have an even bigger enemy, our own enemy within. And you know where we find ourselves right now, folks? We are in the biggest civil rights battle. The biggest war of all of our history. Brother against brother, yet again, in a way that you've never imagined it. I would much rather be fighting the Russians or the Chinese than I am to be fighting against my brothers who believe that through their so-called diversity, they're uniting this country. They know they're not. They're nothing but dividers, these leftists. And they're mad because we want to hold not only them, but the people that supposedly represent us accountable. We want to determine our destiny, where our money goes, the things that we decide. We don't want some bureaucrat saying, you're going to support transgender issues. I don't have to support transgender issues. I can feel for them without putting a nickel to their cause. I got causes. I got indulgences. I don't expect anybody to pay for my indulgences, my idiosyncrasies, my whatever you want to call them. I will take care of them myself. And unless I'm completely unable to do that, then the system should take over and help. If you don't think that I worry about, long-term disability and all these things that could completely upend my life, catastrophic illness, etc., I do. And I'm going to tell you right now, if those catastrophes hit me or my family, I would deal with them through the system. And if it turned out that I was a casualty of them and died, so be it. That's life. There are no guarantees. Hold people accountable by beginning of holding yourself accountable. How about that? When did we all become wards of the government? Life makes no commitments to you. It makes no promises. And the only place that you have the closest thing to that is through opportunity. And that's in this country. Oh, my goodness, man, I could go on here. So much to talk about too. Over the weekend, let me tell you what you can set your watch by. There were lots of killings in Chicago. Chicago surpassed the 600 killing mark. While not even this over the weekend, this was during the week. So less than last year, but still a lot of people dying. And this is true in Baltimore. Baltimore, we had a cop killed. That story got absorbed in the media cycle around Franken and all this other nonsense. Roy Moore, a police officer gunned down. They think they got the suspect. Shocking, young black man. You know who the police was killed? Young black man. It's crazy out there. We're still battling the leftover capitalism. The NFL ratings, we talk about them every week now because we have to showcase to you that we're winning. You know why we're winning every time Chicago has this high death rate? It's a win for conservatism, as crazy and ironic as that sounds. It's because leftists will never believe us until we put it in their faces that their policies don't work. Their policies get people killed. You know why it's necessary to talk about the NFL ratings? To show leftists that their policies don't work. The NFL is a corporation that's broken and dysfunctional because of progressivism. And you want to know something else that we need to be throwing in their faces? Where is this Russia-Trump investigation going? Who else is going to be standing before the man? You got Manafort and one other low-level guy, Papadopoulos. Who else you got? Where's that now looking at? Where are we looking at now? Where's Special Counsel Mueller, the most honest man in D.C.? Democrats recently called for the impeachment of Donald Trump, despite warnings from Nancy Pelosi not to do it, and a handful of these clowns did it anyway. What about that? That's a story. Where's Nancy Pelosi's power? Doesn't exist. And the leftists showcase every single day how stupid they are, how stupid their ideology is, and I'm going to point it out to you. That's my job. Back in a bit.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
April. Sarah, is this an uncomfortable conversation about these sexual allegations for this White House, be it Al Franken or be it Wilmore?
I think it's an uncomfortable conversation for the country. I think that this is something that is being discussed pretty widely, and we certainly think that it should be taken very seriously. And it's one of the reasons I stand up here and answer your questions every day, and will continue to do so and continue to address them. Obviously, it's something that should be looked at, and I think it should be looked at widespread, not just in the political sphere, but in the business atmosphere and across the board in this country, and something we certainly, again, take seriously. Alex, I'm going to tight on time today.
Hillary Clinton today
April.
About the president's past and going back to what Matthew said. She said, look, I worry about everything from his past because it tells you how he behaves in the present and will in the future. What do you say to that as it relates to these allegations against the president?
I think Hillary Clinton probably should have dealt with some of those of her own issues before addressing this president.
Welcome back, everybody. That was April Moore trying to stir up some mess with Sarah Sanders, spokesperson, White House PR person. And Sarah Sanders just, whatever. Yeah, look, April, whatever her name is, black chick, she wants to tie this all back to Donald Trump. Really? Nice try. I'd love to see them try to spin this back. You want to talk about been litigated? It's been litigated. Donald Trump is the most, we know more about this guy than we know about any president in the history of this nation. These people have looked for something on this man for the better part of 2 years, maybe longer. Anyway, glad you guys are still with me. KJRadio.com is where you can get us on demand. 844-551-8255. Race Pimping is my book. We talk about it all the time. And I read this report from it was a Casey Research. The guy's name is Doug Casey. And he was discussing race. I've been talking about race and its fabric in America for quite some time. I've talked to people many, many times and said to them, if you don't understand how important this subject is in our political discussion, our political lexicon, you don't get it. Race is that. Look at April Ryan just asked a question about Donald Trump, leading back to supposed allegations of Trump, doing things with women, which he didn't do. And you better know the significance of that black woman asking that question is it's important. The white women are no longer going to ask that question. April Ryan has permission. How many times have you guys said to me, you sent me notes? By the way, we love them and we answer you back. Did you say to me things like, Kevin, you can say that because you're black? And I go, okay, whatever. I'm not going to, poo-poo in the punch bowl over the idea that if I were white, I'd be saying the same things. People would, Kevin, you'd be called a racist. Well, I've been called worse. If I were white, I would not have been a member of the Klan. I wouldn't be a member of some Aryan Nation group. I'd be a private citizen espousing my views. And I'd probably be, at this point, self-employed. In other words, put everything where it is right now. Self-employed, left management consulting, started writing. I don't know if I'd be on TV, how much coverage they would give me. But I know this, I'd probably have a radio show. I'd be making a living through my writing. And I don't know who would buy my books. Maybe the Aryan Nation might be buying my books left and right and ask me to speak. I wouldn't speak at their events. I wouldn't condone their actions, but I would doggone sure, as a private citizen white guy, say to the world, I'm not apologizing for my birthright, how I was born. I had no control over it. There wasn't a dial. They said, hey, baby, pick your race. You want to be black, white, whatever. And for the record, if I were a white kid, I'd go, I'm proud I picked white. Why would I pick something else? What do white folks have to be ashamed of? No less than anything black folks have to be ashamed of. We got a continent. Black people got a continent. And the most successful country on the continent that's full of black people is the little bitty part down south that's run by white folks. Now, do I like the Dutch and the Afrikaners, the fact that they've gone down there and abused black folks and put them in black ghettos and what have you? Jailed dissidents? No. But I'll tell you this, they built a pretty successful little piece of the pie down there in South Africa. Look at all the other countries of Africa who could have gone down there and said, you know what, Dutch, we don't like the way you're treating us here, and we're going to come down there and kick your butt. They could have kicked butt. They didn't do it. They watched it happen. Idi Amin, he kicked all the Asians out. He kicked the Indians out. They could have gone down there and kicked all them white folks out of South Africa. They didn't do it. So who are you talking to? Oh, Kevin, they're doing that in Botswana, not in Botswana, other areas of the country. I can't remember where, but they took out all the white farmers, killed them in some cases. And you know what happened? It went to crap. They can't feed themselves anymore because the farmers knew what they were doing. All the white farmers were like, you want the farm? You're going to kill me over it? I'll leave. I'll go make a living somewhere else. And they did. So all I'm saying is, look, the people don't pick what they want. If I could pick, I would have picked to be born into a very wealthy family. Or maybe not. See, here's the way I look at it. I look at it that God picked for me. God picked for me. He said, Kevin, I'm going to put you in this lower middle class family, maybe even considered poor. And I'm going to give you, your parents are going to be a dad who went to prison and a mother who will die at the age of 5, while you're at the age of 5. And you will then be raised by your grandparents. And I'm going to teach you about life through that prism. And you know what? If God said to me, Kevin, you could go back and change it right now, what do you want to do? I'd say, Lord, leave it the same. As much as I miss my mother, as much as I would love to have spent more time and seen a loving family together, because she remarried Tommy, my stepfather. But you know what? God had a different plan. And if anything had changed, I'm not here doing this. And I don't know what the plan is for this. I don't know how many people I influence, how many people I've changed. But here's what I can tell you. I have changed them. So I'm looking at this thing on this report from Casey Research, Doug Casey, and he says, for one thing, he's talking about the case against how race in America is impacting things. And he's making a case to say, look, we don't need everybody voting in this country and all these other things. So here's what he says. For one thing, anyone can vote. People who are penniless, 18-year-olds who have no knowledge or experience and are fresh out of the indoctrination of high school. Lots of non-citizens, probably millions, manage to vote. Voting has become, as H.L. Mencken said, just an advance auction on stolen goods. What a great comment by Mencken. And by the way, if you want to read a person who is, he's at the highest level of intellect when it comes to the political discussion, Mencken is it. For another thing, he says, today the United States is multicultural. America used to have its own distinct culture. The United States no longer stands for anything. He's essentially saying that the world we knew doesn't exist anymore because we have become foolish in who we've let be in charge of it. He says race is just the most obvious thing that divides people. You can see that somebody's of a different race just by looking at them. The old saying about birds of a feather flocking together is basically true. It's very politically incorrect to make that observation, of course, certainly if you're white, but it's factually accurate. Most things that are PC fly in the face of reality. If people are of a different race, it increases the chances that they're not going to share other things. The key for a rational person is to judge people as individuals. Race, sex, religion, cultural background are quick indicators of who a person might be, as are dress, accent, attitude, and what they say, among many other indicators. You need as much data as you can to help you judge what the other person will do and who he or she is. It's actually quite stupid to not discriminate among people you encounter. But then the whole PC movement is quite stupid by its very nature. Now, I've said this many times, and here's what I've said to you. If you don't profile, you're an idiot. If you believe you don't profile, you're an idiot. Now, you can be in one or two of the categories. You profile everything. You profile the fruits and vegetables you're going to pick to bring home. You profile your daughter or boyfriend or girlfriend. You profile your son's girlfriend or boyfriend. You profile everything. You profile employees at your job. You profile the person you're going to get into a car with. You profile your friend. You profile everything. He says you can't have a multicultural democracy. And especially you can't have one where the government is making laws that have to do with economics, where it allocates wealth from one group to another. So sure, the U.S. is going to break apart, and you can certainly see it happening along racial lines. The active racism among blacks isn't an anomaly. He's right.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.